Going back to the question of regionalism and language issues, a new book co-authored with Dominique Arel, the chair of Ukrainian Studies at the University of Ottawa, continues to promote this line of regionalism and language questions in Ukraine. Dominique Arel, who grew up in Quebec, sadly for the last 30 years has been looking at Ukraine through the eyes of his upbringing in Quebec, that everything's about language in Ukraine. And it simply is not true. His book will get, it's only just appeared, I'm just going through it, but his book is going to be badly reviewed by most people. It has no fieldwork. It's premised on the idea that there's a kind of a civil war in Ukraine taking place since 2014 between language groups. And one has to wonder why a prominent Ukrainian in Toronto, and Andrew Danyliw, is funding Dominique Arel's annual conference at the University of Ottawa. Danylyw's father would be rocking in his coffin if he knew that he was funding such a Russophile and wrong interpretation of the invasion and the war with Russia since 2014. There is no war, there never was a war in Ukraine between Ukrainian and Russian speakers. The war in Ukraine is all to do with identity and civilization. And that means that on the Ukrainian side, you can have Ukrainian and Russian speakers. It's nothing to do with the language you speak. I've been, prior to the invasion in the Donbass war zone, where I've met people from the Donbass who were fighting for Ukraine. If it was a language issue, why would they be fighting for Ukraine? The largest number of casualties prior to the invasion, from 2014 to 2021, the largest number of military casualties in Ukraine were from Dnipropetrovsk. Again, if this was a language question, if this was the war about language, why would East Ukrainians have the highest number of casualties? And more pertinently, why would Volodymyr Zelensky be a Ukrainian patriot? Why would Volodymyr Zelensky be today's Ukrainian Winston Churchill? Yet he's from Eastern Ukraine, he's a Russian speaker of Jewish background, but he's a Ukrainian patriot. So the language question is simply the wrong approach, and Dominique Arel here is incredibly promoting basically the Kremlin's position on Ukraine and the position of useful idiots in the West, which you tend to see on the far left, actually, which Dominique Arel is not.